At Christmas Eve, Mom asked, "Aren't you lonely without us?" While my chosen family played games in the next room. I had my phone pressed between my ear and shoulder, hands still greasy from the garlic bread I just pulled apart. From the living room, I could hear Jamie's voice shouting, "No, you can't play a draw 4 on a draw 2. That's illegal," followed by a chorus of house rules, and someone's weird witch cackle. The fairy lights we taped haphazardly around the archway flickered, and the smell of cinnamon and pizza sauce sat in the warm air of my tiny apartment. I watched Mason walk past holding a bowl of popcorn way too full, grains spilling onto the floor like confetti. My mom's question just hung there in my ear, heavy and pointed, like a hook waiting for something sharp to catch. It was my second Christmas Eve not at my parents' place. Last year I bowed out with a shaky, "I'm not feeling well," which was only half a lie because anxiety counts as feeling sick, I think. This year I'd actually said it, "I'm not coming home for Christmas." I'm 29 for context, and until I was 27 I had never missed a Christmas at their house. Not one. Even the year I had the flu and a fever that made everything look like it was vibrating. Dad drove me home from my share house because we do Christmas together in this family. "What a thing to ask," I said now, wiping my hands on a dish towel. My voice came out lighter than I felt. That's a skill I have. Ventriloquism for my own emotions. "I'm good, Mom. We're doing our own thing tonight." "We?" she repeated, like she'd caught me in a lie. "With those people?" "Those people," I said, glancing at the living room where my friends were arguing over whether gingerbread men could be stacked in Jenga. "Are my friends?" "Yes." She sighed dramatically down the line. I pictured her in the kitchen I grew up in, cordless phone wedged under her chin, leaning against the counter with the cupboard door that never shut properly. I could practically smell the old mix of roast meat, floor cleaner, and fake pine from that big plastic tree she refused to upgrade. "It just makes me sad," she said. "Christmas Eve and my only daughter is, what? In some dingy unit eating takeaway." I looked around at the mess we'd made. The coffee table was covered in mismatched plates, half a cheese board, and 3 open card games. Someone had taped a paper snowflake to the TV. There was red wrapping paper in a heap by the couch where we'd done early gifts, because none of us are good at delayed gratification. It was messy. It was loud. It was not dingy. "We cooked," I said. "Well, cooked is generous, but there is actual food here." "I'm not in a gutter, Mom." "You know that's not what I meant," she said, and I could hear the wet edge creeping into her voice. "I just wonder if, when the games are done and everyone goes back to their real families, whether you'll feel it. The loneliness. Because I would if I were you." There it was. The quiet, polished dagger. If I were you. Growing up, my mom had a gift for making my emotions sound like choices I'd made to spite her. If I was sad, I was being dramatic. If I was angry, I was trying to ruin the mood. If I was quiet, I was sulking. The only acceptable setting was cheerful and helpful, and even that had a time limit. Every Christmas Eve, we'd follow the same script. Church. Even when Dad stopped believing, we still went for the community. Then back home for family time. Hot food in summer because tradition apparently trumped basic physics. My job was to help Mom in the kitchen and keep things light, so Dad wouldn't start in about how we'd burned money on gifts. My brother, Matt, would show up late, make some comment about the food, and disappear into his room with a plate. There's this snapshot memory I have at 16. I'm in the kitchen in an itchy dress, basting a chicken, my feet aching. Mom is banging pots louder than necessary. Dad is in the lounge yelling at a cricket match. Matt is half asleep on the couch, ignoring us. "You're lucky," Mom says, banging a tray. "My mother never did all this for us. We had sandwiches. You don't know you're born." "I can help more," I say, even though I've been in the kitchen since lunchtime. She sighs. "You could at least smile," she says. "Everyone will think you're miserable. Christmas is a time for family. Do you want them thinking you're not happy?" I grin on command, the fake wide one that makes my cheeks hurt. That was the story every year. My job was to be grateful and bright so the family Christmas narrative stayed intact. It didn't matter that my chest felt hollow or that I wanted more than anything to be in my room reading alone. Alone, not alone in a crowd. When I moved out at 24, nothing changed at Christmas. I was still back in the kitchen by lunchtime on the 24th. Because you know how your mother gets. When my friends asked if I wanted to do a Christmas Eve drink, I said, "Oh, I can't." Family stuff. Like it was a law written somewhere. The shift started small, like hairline cracks. Little things that I'd never questioned suddenly made me pause. 2 Christmases ago, I was late leaving work on Christmas Eve. Retail at Christmas is hell. I was exhausted and half-deaf from Mariah Carey. I texted Mom to say I'd be an hour late. She called me immediately. "For once," she said, not bothering with hello. "For once in your life, could you not make Christmas about you?" "I'm just saying I'll be a bit late," I said, my hand gripping the steering wheel even though I was still in the parking lot. "You know how your father gets waiting around," she snapped. "He'll be pacing and then I'll have to listen to it. You being late will ruin the whole evening." That line lodged itself in my brain. You being late will ruin the whole evening. Not, "we'll miss you." Not, "drive safe." Just a direct equation. My existence plus imperfect attendance equals ruined event. I still went, of course. I sped the whole way. I showed up sweaty and guilty and immediately started unloading the dishwasher to make up for it. On the drive home at midnight, I had to pull over because my hands were shaking too much. It took nearly a full year and a handful of panic attacks completely unrelated to Christmas for me to end up in therapy. And once you've said, "I feel like my only role in my family is to absorb their moods so they don't explode," out loud in a therapist's office, it's very hard to unhear it. So last November, Laura, my therapist, asked, "What would you like Christmas to look like? If you could choose?" The question felt illegal. "I don't choose Christmas," I said automatically. "Christmas is Christmas." She smiled a little. "That wasn't my question." I sat there, picking at a loose thread on the couch. "Honestly," I said, "probably something low-key. No yelling. No walking on eggshells. Just people who like me as I am. Games. Food that isn't a weird test of how much heat your body can withstand in summer. No guilt trip speeches." "Is there anyone in your life you feel that way around?" she asked. I thought of Jamie's chaotic living room, of Mason's bad puns, of Priya falling asleep mid-movie with her head on my shoulder. The little group that had formed around our shared status as people whose families are too far/complicated/overwhelming for easy Christmases. "Yeah," I said slowly. "Actually." "Well," she said, "what would it be like to spend Christmas with them?" The idea felt like cheating on my blood relatives. But it also felt warm, like the first deep breath after you've been holding it for too long. "War," I said. "If my parents found out." That brings me back to the phone call. "Why aren't you here?" Mom asked, after her lonely question hung there long enough. "We always do Christmas Eve together. You know your father made that ham because you like it." "I told you last week," I said. "And the week before. I'm doing Christmas Eve here. I'll come by on Boxing Day for a short visit." "Boxing Day," she repeated, like I'd suggested we celebrate on Mars. "Oh, so we're fit in around your friends now, are we?" Second choice. I pinched the bridge of my nose. "This isn't a hierarchy," I said. "I'm not choosing friends over family like it's a reality show. I'm choosing not to be in a house where I feel like I have to manage everyone's moods." From the living room, "No, you can't stack 2 reverse cards. What dimension are you from?" Followed by laughter. Someone started playing Mariah Carey on a tinny Bluetooth speaker. "What moods?" Mom demanded. "We're sitting here quietly. Your dad is watching TV. Matt's on his phone. No one's yelling. You make us sound like monsters." "Right now," I said, "because I'm not there. You and I both know if I showed up an hour late because traffic was bad, or if I said I didn't want to go to church, it would not be quiet." She was silent for a second. Then, "So that's it then? You think you're better than us now?" There it was. Another old favorite. No, I said. My heart was pounding against my sternum like it wanted out. I don't think I'm better. I think I'm done making myself small. Oh, for God's sake, she muttered. All this boundaries nonsense. You never used to talk like this. I also used to have acid reflux every day, I said. So we're changing things up. Is this because of that therapist? She asked. Has she told you we're toxic? Because you should be careful. These people fill your head with ideas, and then you wake up at 40 with no family wondering what happened. I looked at the doorway to the living room again. Jamie caught my eye and mouthed, "You okay?" I nodded, one hand up, the universal 1-minute sign. They nodded back and returned to their dramatic Uno tribunal. These people, I said, made me cookies last week just because I had a bad day. They send me, "Did you eat today?" texts. They don't call me selfish when I say I'm tired. I don't think I'm in danger of ending up with no family. I just have more than one kind now. Oh, so strangers you've known 5 minutes are your family now? She snapped. I swallowed. I've known Jamie for 8 years, I said. Mason for 6. Priya for 3. They've shown up for me more consistently than Matt has in the last decade. She gasped. Don't you drag your brother into this, she said. He has his own struggles. I know, I said, and I have mine. I'm not saying this to hurt you. I'm trying to explain. Explain what? She asked. That we're not good enough for you? That you're too fragile for your own family? My hand tightened around the phone. The rational adult part of my brain kept whispering, she's doing it again, pulling you into the same fight, you know this song. The kid part of me just wanted to fix it. Apologize. Promise to drive over right now. Explain that every Christmas. I felt like a prop in your version of what family should look like. I said, voice shaking now. That I've left your house feeling more alone than when I arrived. That I never want to dread a holiday again. That I'm allowed to find joy somewhere else. She made this small noise, somewhere between a scoff and a sob. You'll regret this, she said finally. When they're all gone off with their real families, you'll remember who was there for you. Don't come crying to me then. That line hurt more than I wanted to admit. Don't come crying to me. The subtext always being, my comfort is conditional. Time limited. Earned. I'm not planning to, I said, a little colder than I intended. But okay. We did the awkward wrap-up dance after that. I wished her a nice evening. She said Merry Christmas, like it was an insult. I hung up and just stood there in my own kitchen, phone still in my hand, heart doing somersaults. There's this phenomenon no one really tells you about when you start loosening yourself from your family's grip. Even when you know you're doing the right thing, your body sometimes thinks you've set yourself on fire. My hands were shaking. My face felt hot. My throat had that tight, pre-cry ache. Jamie appeared in the doorway, socks sliding a little on the floorboards. Hey, they said softly. How's the dragon? I huffed out something that might have been a laugh. Breathing fire, I said. Do we need to break out the emergency ice cream? They asked. Behind them, Mason yelled, I will flip this table if you skip me one more time. Which, to be fair, is exactly the kind of energy he brings to every board game. I'm okay, I said. And I checked in with myself as I said it, because old me would say, I'm okay, to avoid making anyone worry. My chest was still tight, but under that there was this steadiness, like the floor had stopped shifting. Sure, Jamie asked. No, I said, but also yes. They grinned. Emotionally nuanced, I see you, they said. Come back in. It's your turn. And Priya is absolutely cheating. I am not cheating, Priya called from the couch. I am just very good at this game. I went back into the living room. Someone had moved my drink to a coaster shaped like a Christmas tree. The fan hummed in the corner, stirring the warm air. The fairy lights were doing their best impersonation of a Hallmark movie. Mason patted the cushion next to him. Come on, absentee, he said. We were about to vote to skip your turn. You all talk democracy until it's my draw, I said, sitting down. As the game went on, the phone call receded a little. Not gone. Those things have a way of lingering, but quieter. My mom's voice got replaced by my friends bickering over rules, the taste of cheap rose, the feel of the couch sagging just enough. At some point, someone put on that awful Santa Baby song, and we all groaned in unison. Later, when it was just me and Jamie in the kitchen cleaning up, they bumped my hip with theirs. "Want to talk about it?" they asked. I rinsed a plate, watched greasy water swirl down the drain. "She asked if I was lonely," I said, "while you guys were literally screaming over Uno." "That's fun psychology," they said, wrinkling their nose. "Yeah," I swallowed. "She made it sound like, this is temporary, like you're all going to vanish and I'll crawl back begging for crumbs." Jamie dried the plate I handed them. "Joke's on her," they said. "You're stuck with us. We have visitation rights." I smiled. It wasn't dramatic or movie-worthy. My chest still hurt. A part of me still wanted my mom to send a follow-up text that said, "I'm proud of you for doing what's right for you," even though I know that's about as likely as snow in January here. But standing there, with my hands in warm soapy water and my friends yelling Christmas karaoke in the next room, I didn't feel the kind of bone-deep sorrow I used to feel after family holidays. I felt sad and angry and relieved and confused and, underneath all that, a little bit hopeful. I don't know what my relationship with my parents will look like going forward. I'm still going to see them on Boxing Day, for a couple of hours, in a neutral public place where I can leave if the guilt trip gets too thick. I don't think they'll ever fully understand why anyone would choose a bunch of strangers over blood. To them, family is obligation first, comfort second. What I'm slowly learning is that I'm allowed to flip that. I can be sad that my mom's version of love comes wrapped in barbed questions. I can wish my dad would text, "Hope you're having fun," instead of, "Don't forget where you come from." I can grieve the family I wanted and didn't get. And at the same time, I can lean fully into the family I did find. The ones who show up, who listen without keeping score, who play games loudly on Christmas Eve and call me out for trying to skip my turn. Mom asked if I was lonely without them. The honest answer is complicated. Part of me will always be lonely with them, because the version of me they want at the table doesn't actually exist. But sitting there with my chosen family, sleeves rolled up, arguing about whether Die Hard is a Christmas movie, I realized something. I'm not lonely. I'm just finally not alone with them.